Edward Alexander Crowley, also known as Aleister Crowley. He styled himself the wickedest man in the world. He believed himself to be the great beast. And he changed his name to Aleister Crowley, so it would add up in both English, Hebrew, and Greek Kabbalah as 666. In 1904, Crowley had a communication with an extraterrestrial being named Iwas. And this being, through his wife, kind of a channeling type operation, brought forth a book that was called the Book of the Law in 1904.
They run that on the streets.
So you would go to the public reception center, then that's where you would be processed. It's going to be different than the concentration camps of World War II because we basically are in an automated technocracy. They've got synthetic beings, they have robotics. They really don't need a large population base. So one of the reasons that I left the agencies is they have this plan that if you do not believe that the government is God, then you would go to one of these processing centers briefly. If you could be re-educated, they would do that, although there isn't much need for humans. The globalists really are free to admit that there's no room for humans anymore. It's our duty to expire so that to make the planet, to atone for our sins, basically, of what we've done to the planet. And so you will basically be killed. And there are two different humane methods of killing. And one of those is gassing, and the other method is decapitation. And they've been doing all these experiments, decapitating thousands and thousands of mice, recording their brain waves, all of that, to justify decapitation as a humane method of euthanizing people.
You're talking about guillotines.
Guillotines, yes. And if you think that there's no evidence, so back in between 2000 and 2005, I collected a lot of military documents, such as, because they were really studying the issue of guillotines and how to build a better guillotine, this type of thing. So I have those documents.
So just to translate this, are you saying that people, as they're facing starvation because of the collapse of the food supply, they'll turn themselves into the FEMA camps? They'll be processed, registered, probably, microchipped, right? Whatever they're going to do, they need to do to track you. And then at some point, you'll be sorted out into one of two groups, like a group of maybe people that they might be able to use, and then the people that they've got to get rid of, and you're just going to be led into a guillotine and decapitated, and that's it? That's actually how FEMA is going to process people?
Have you ever seen the movie Sophie's Skull?
No.
So this is about a young girl and her brother. She was probably 18, and they were passing out anti-Hitler propaganda. This is a true story. It's called The White Rose, and they were caught when they passed some anti-Hitler propaganda out at the college, and they had a puppet trial, and they were executed. And I believe that every person in America needs to see Sophie's Skull. It is on YouTube. It is free. It will prepare you for what's coming.
And this book declared that the slain and risen God had stepped off the throne, and that a new God, the crowned and conquering child, was taking his place. He was a brilliant genius. He could play 8 chess games blindfolded. He was an accomplished poet, mountaineer, painter, writer. He had so many Masonic degrees that you could fill up 5 pages of a book with them. This guy was probably the most highly honored Mason in the world. And he began doing rituals to bring forth this crowned and conquering child. And he began to start what he called the cult of the fascinating child. And in doing this, he uncovered, without knowing it, the royal secret of Masonry. And what happened was, a gentleman came knocking at his door after he published a book. And in this book, it was a book of poetry, and in the book he had made an allusion to something. And this guy, his name was Theodor Reuss. He was a German occultist and the head of the OTO, the Ordo Templi Orientis, which stands for the Order of Eastern Templars. There's the Knights Templar again.
This has been hidden for centuries. The Eiffel Tower's real purpose is extremely different to what you've been told. Most people believe it is just a symbol of Parisian culture and the industrial age, but there is far more. Its secrets could have revolutionized the world. The Eiffel Tower was completed in 1889 for the World's Fair. It was designed as a temporary exhibit showcasing modern engineering. But here is where it gets interesting. There is overwhelming evidence that the tower was actually built as a giant antenna for wireless electricity experiments. Nikola Tesla visited Paris in the 1880s, and during his visit he met with Gustave Eiffel and shared his vision of a world powered by free wireless energy. Tesla proved that with his Wardenclyffe Tower invention that could wirelessly transmit electricity across the globe. Eiffel was fascinated by Tesla's ideas and incorporated these principles into the design of the tower. The lattice structure is not just an aesthetic choice, but it gets even stranger. During the construction of the Eiffel Tower, there were reports of strange electromagnetic phenomena and unexplained lights around the tower. Local newspapers often mention mysterious experiments conducted late at night. Some even claim to have seen sparks and glowing orbs.
Theodor Reuss told Crowley that he had given away the greatest secret in occult history. And Crowley said, "What do you mean? I don't even understand it." So the guy promptly initiated him on the spot to the 9th degree of the OTO and then explained the secret to him. And you're about to learn what this secret is. The secret is that as a Mason, you are promised immortality. Where do they get their promise of immortality? Simply, the secret that Crowley uncovered, probably through demonic intervention, is the secret that this immortality is conveyed through tantric sex magic. And the kind of sex magic that we're talking about here, unfortunately, is the sexual violation of a little child. Crowley taught that the way you could live forever was by vampirizing little children sexually. And this, I apologize that this is so horrible, but Masons are doing this. Not all Masons, please understand me. Probably 1 in 100 knows about this. But this is a significant enough problem that I feel compelled to share it with you.
Hi, it's Dana Horchowski. It is October the 9th, 2009. And I'm going to read you The Secret Covenant. I only have 10 minutes. It's on the Polly Hicks section of CanadaStreetNews.com. And this is dedicated to the Jesuits, the High Freemasons, and the High Knights of Columbus, and those that have pledged a blood oath allegiance to the Luciferians, secret societies. The Secret Covenant. An illusion it will be, so large, so vast, it will escape their perception. Those who will see it will be thought of as insane. We will create separate fronts to prevent them from seeing the connection between us. We will behave as if we are not connected to keep the illusion alive. Our goal will be to accomplish one drop at a time so as to never bring suspicion upon ourselves. This will also prevent them from seeing the changes as they occur. We will always stand above the relative field of their experience, for we know the secrets of the Absolute. We will work together always, and will remain bound by blood and secrecy. Death will come to he who speaks. We will keep their lifespan short and their minds weak until pretending to do the opposite. We will use our knowledge of science and technology in subtle ways so they will never see what is happening. We will use soft metals, aging accelerators, and sedatives in food and water, also in the air. They will be blanketed by poisons everywhere they turn. The soft metals will cause them to lose their minds. We will promise to find a cure from many of our fronts, yet we will feed them more poison. The poisons will be absorbed through their skin and mouths, and they will destroy their minds and reproductive systems. From all this, their children will be born dead, and we will conceal this information. The poisons will be hidden in everything that surrounds them, and what they drink, eat, breathe, and wear.
Coca-Cola just signed a 5-year, $1.1 billion deal with Microsoft. 5 years ago, it was discovered that there were fluorescent nanoparticles in Coca-Cola. Now, if I were a conspiracy theorist, I might think there were more to this partnership.
Now, according to reports, Microsoft and the Coca-Cola Company have announced a 5-year strategic partnership to align Coca-Cola's core technology strategy system-wide. So it is said to enable the adoption of leading-edge technology and foster innovation and productivity globally. Using Azure OpenAI service, Coca-Cola is currently exploring the use of generative AI-powered digital assistants. Now, did you know they have found nanotechnology in Coca-Cola and in Pepsi products? Have a look at this.
Now, the world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
The biodistribution study in major organs indicated that the NPs were easily accumulated in the digestive tract, and they were able to cross the blood-brain barrier and dispersed into the brain. Questions, and of course suspicions, have been raised in recent years.
We must be ingenious in dispensing the poisons, for they can see far. We will teach them that the poisons are good, with fun images and musical tones. Those they look up to will help. We will enlist them to push our poisons. They will see our products being used in films and will grow accustomed to them and will never know their true effect. When they give birth, we will inject the poisons into the blood of their children and convince them it's for their help. We will start early on, when their minds are young, and we will target their children and what the children love most, sweet things. When their teeth decay, we will fill them with metals, and that will kill their mind and steal their future. When their ability to learn has been affected, we will create medicine that will make them even sicker and cause other diseases for which we will create even yet more medicine. We will render them docile and weak before us by our power. They will grow depressed, slow, and obese, and when they come to us for help, we will give them more poison. We will focus their attention towards money and material goods so that they may never connect with their inner self. We will distract them with fornication, external pleasures, and games so they may never be one with the oneness of it all.
This is why the Masons believe that they will live forever. They think every time they defile a little child, they steal some of that child's youth. What happens then is they believe that they are accessing alternate universes, alternate realities where they can become as gods. Everything in magic, like everything in the occult, has its yin and yang. It's positive and it's negative. It's good and evil. There's always this dynamism. And so therefore, just like there is a tree of life, there is also a tree of evil. This is called the Qlīphot in Hebrew, which translated means harlots. Here is what is ultimately involved. There is a belief that through this sexual perversion, they can access these tunnels into alternate universes, alternate realities. And the goal of this kind of magic is to find your own universe. and become the God over that universe. This buys into the modern day physics theory that there's many, many dimensions of reality. Maybe you've read about that. Alternate universes. It shows up in science fiction a lot. And then once you're the God of this universe, you can start sucking the energy out of it. And you can use that energy through this child to live forever and ever and ever. And there are men, I have met several that claim to be hundreds of years old. And this broad genre of magic is called, and here's a nice big word for you, Transuguthian magic. And all that means is it's magic that goes into trans-Plutonian space. Space beyond the planet Pluto, which they believe is beyond the pale of the sun and therefore beyond the pale of the Judeo-Christian God. They believe there are gods out beyond Pluto that are far more powerful and far more dangerous and far more deadly than either God or the devil. And that's what these beings, these men, are trying to access.
Their minds will belong to us, and they will do as we say. If they refuse, we shall find ways to implement mind-altering technology into their lives. We will use fear as our weapon. We will establish their governments and establish opposites within. We will own both sides. We will always hide our objective, but carry out our plan. We will perform the labor. They will perform the labor for us, and we shall prosper from their toil. Our families will never mix with theirs. Our blood must be pure always, for it is the way. We will make them kill each other when it suits us. We will keep them separated from the oneness by dogma and religion. We will control all aspects of their lives and then tell them what to think and how. We will guide them kindly and gently, letting them think that they are guiding themselves. We will foment anonymously between them through our factions. When a light shall shine among them, we shall extinguish it by ridicule or death, whatever suits us best. We will make them rip each other's hearts apart and kill their own children. We will accomplish this by using hate as our ally, anger as our friend. The hate will bind them totally, and never shall they see that from their conflicts we will emerge as the rulers. They will be busy killing each other. They will bathe in their own blood and kill their neighbors for as long as we see fit. We will benefit greatly from this, for they will not see us, for they cannot see us. We will continue to prosper from their wars and their deaths. We shall repeat it over and over until our ultimate goal is accomplished. We will continue to make them live in fear and anger through images and sound. We will use all the tools we have to accomplish this. The tools will be provided by their labor. We will make them hate themselves and their neighbors. We will always hide the divine truth from them, that we are all one. This they must never know. They must never know that the color is an illusion. They must always think they are not equal. Drop by drop, we will advance in our goal. We will take over their land, resources, and wealth to exercise total control over them. We will deceive them into accepting laws that will steal the little freedom that they will have. We will establish a money system that will imprison them forever, keeping them and their children in debt. When they shall band together, we shall accuse them of crimes and present a different story in the world, for we shall own all the media. For we will use our media to control the flow of information and their sentiment in our favor. When they shall rise up against us, we will crush them like insects, for they are less than that. They will be helpless to do anything, for they will have no weapons. We will recruit some of their own to carry out our plans, and we will promise them eternal life. But eternal life they will never have, for they are not one of us. The recruits will be called initiates, and it will be indoctrinated to believe false rites of passage to higher realms. The members of these groups will think they are one with us, never knowing the truth. They must never learn the truth, for they will turn against us. For their work, they will never be rewarded with earthly things and great titles. but never will they become immortal and join us. Never will they receive the light and travel the stars. They will never reach the higher realms, for the killing of their own kind will prevent the passage of the realm of enlightenment. This they will never know. The truth will be hidden in their face, so close that they will not be able to focus on until it's too late. Oh yes, so grand the illusion of freedom will be, that they will never know how they are our slaves. When all is in place, the reality we shall have created for them will own them. The reality will be their prison. They will live in self-delusion. When our goal is accomplished, a new era of dominion will begin. Their minds will be bound by their beliefs, the beliefs we have established from the time immemorial. But if they ever find out that they are our equal, we shall perish then. This they must never know. If they ever find out that together they can vanquish us, they will take action. They must never ever find out what we have done, for if they do, they shall have no place to run. For we shall have no place to run, for it is easy to see who we are once the veil has fallen. Our action will have revealed who we are, and they will hunt us down, and no person shall give us shelter. This is the secret covenant by which we shall live the rest of our present and future lives. For this reality will transcend many generations and lifespans. This covenant is sealed by blood, our blood. We, the ones who from heaven to earth came, the fallen angels. This covenant must never ever be known to exist. It must never ever be written or spoken of, for it is the consciousness that will release the fury of the Prime Creator upon us, and we shall be cast to the depths from whence we came and remain there until the end of time, of infinity. You guys can go to the abyss 1,000 years. You're the evil.
I mean, this is such a problem that we are actually, I now know of 5 national support groups that are helping people that are survivors of Masonic ritual abuse.
You come from generations of ritualistic abuse?
Yes, my family has an extensive family tree, and they keep track of who's been involved and who hasn't been involved. And it's gone back to, like, 1700.
And so you were...
Right. I was born into a family that believes in this.
And does everyone else think it's a nice Jewish family? From the outside, you appear to be a nice Jewish girl?
Definitely.
And you all are worshiping the devil inside the home?
Right. There's other Jewish families across the country. It's not just my own family.
Really? Well, when you were brought up in this kind of evilness, did you just think it was normal?
I've blocked out a lot of the memories I had because of my multiple personality disorder. But, yes, I mean, it's like if you grow up with something, you think it's normal.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought
So what kinds of things? You don't have to give us the gory details, but what kinds of things went on in the family?
Well, there would be rituals in which babies would be sacrificed, and you would have to,
Whose babies?
There were people who bred babies in our family. No one would know about it. A lot of people were overweight, so you couldn't tell if they were pregnant or not, or they would supposedly go away for a while and then come back.
You witnessed the sacrifice?
Right. When I was very young, I was forced to participate in that, in which I had to sacrifice an infant.
And the purpose of sacrifice is to what? Is to bring you what? What are you sacrificing for?
For power.
Uh-huh. Power. And so, were you ever used? Were you ever used yourself?
I was molested. I was raped several times.
Mm-hmm. And what's your mother doing?
She's
in all of this. What's her role in all of this?
I'm not exactly what her role is. I haven't, recovered all of my memories, but her family was extremely involved. Mm-hmm. She brought me to it. Mm-hmm. Both of my parents brought me to it. And she's an upstanding citizen. Nobody would suspect her.
Were you raised with a sense of right and wrong, Rachel?
Yes. I mean, it's like I had both. I mean, to the outside world, everything we did was proper and right, and then there were the nights that things changed, that things just got turned around. What was wrong was right, and what was right was wrong. There's a book that I had just come across called Lilith's Cave, which is a book of Jewish mysticism and supernatural, and there's a lot in that book that relates to what I endured when I was a child.
Anyone else feel like they're watching their fellow humans fall into a trance and throw themselves off a cliff as they fall under a new propaganda spell convincing them the oligarchs have come to the rescue, the government is now the good guy, and America's
Golden Age
has arrived? The trance goes like this. Tulsi is the director of national intelligence, RFK Jr. is going to make us healthy, and Elon and the Doge are exposing corruption and waste. Cash is now the top cop. There's a task force to release classified documents, and Trump froze foreign aid. America's back, and the new ruling class is here to liberate and protect us while taking out the deep state. Finally, we're saved. It's tempting, and it sounds miraculous, until you look past the shadows on the wall to the character and behaviors of those casting them. While it's great and not hard at all or revelatory to expose government waste and corruption, how is Elon going to handle his own surveillance state and military-industrial contracts? Will SpaceX face scrutiny for buying bipartisan influence in the broken system he and the oligarchy now rail against? How is Doge any match for the current House Republican budget proposal, which is slated to increase the deficit by hundreds of billions each year? The Senate overwhelmingly voted against an amendment to make significant spending cuts to their version of the astronomical budget. Is a public-private partnership with some of the most powerful tech people who are pushing biometric digital IDs and envisioning total surveillance taking down the deep state? Is advancing artificial intelligence in government, especially in the military and the CIA, to the benefit of Silicon Valley tycoons what MAGA voted for? Are mRNA AI cancer shots and poultry injections Maha? Is the new seed oil shilling deputy director of the USDA? Fun fact, RFK Jr. does not oversee the USDA. Meanwhile, Patel vows to punish journalists when the government decides they've done bad things. And about those classified documents, the most transparent administration in history promised you. Trump, quote, banned CBDCs only to promote them with an extra step. It's cool Trump said he wants to cut defense spending. He also recently said,
we want to raise defense spending. I think we have to have it.
The new Senate Republican budget proposal allows for $150 billion more for the military in the next 9 years. Meanwhile, Trump is funneling literal tons of weapons to Israel. He claims the US will annex Gaza, and his entire cabinet is packed with Israel bootlicking shills while he orders a multi-billion-dollar Iron Dome built over America. By the way, Biden launching airstrikes against terrorists is unconstitutional, but Trump doing it is extraordinary leadership. A government agency is looking to monitor speech for criticism of said government agency. Trump is attempting to silence speech for his handlers and just shut down a police accountability database. He's also expanding Guantanamo, a black stain on American values. His King neocon-endorsed CIA director won't reject the use of torture, but Trump's Wall Street Secretary of Commerce did say his goal is to abolish the IRS, and paying higher prices caused by government intervention is now patriotic. So bend the knee. I get that people want to feel optimistic. The ruling class has beaten them down, made them feel othered, dehumanized, and disempowered. People of all partisan persuasions have been conditioned to believe they can't save themselves, that they need politicians and oligarchs to liberate them. And because of
We, the people, are the government.
Indoctrination pushed in civics, they believe these politicians and oligarchs and the authoritarian state they rule over are actually extensions of themselves. This is a recipe for the most extreme dystopia yet. The propaganda is top tier, and the masses are now being showered with signs of hope and change, just enough that many of them will look the other way at the rapid progression of the technocratic police state and the further consolidation of power in the hands of a few. These types call anyone who questions their new narratives black-pilled. But black-pilled means cynical and negative, and many of us questioning the new regime are anything but. We simply don't believe real solutions come from government and the documented liars and megalomaniacs in control of it. Or that a few crumbs of winning will counteract the grave threats to liberty imposed by those at the top, as they always have been. And don't even think about calling me a libtard. I'm more anti-government than any MAGA bot. And my skepticism doesn't change based on who's in power. If you're watching this rapid descent into cultism and feeling disturbed and disheartened, please know you're not alone. Many of us out here aren't falling for the new regime's propaganda and will continue to question and resist government authority regardless of who's in control of it. Those of us who understand that government and the people who seek control of it aren't coming to save us will keep pushing back against the smoke and mirrors. MAGA may be celebrating their new masters in chains, but some of us don't want masters in chains for ourselves or anyone else.
I have joining me today Dr. and Rabbi Marvin Antelman. Welcome to the show, Rabbi.
Thank you very much for having me here. First of all, let me say this. There are a lot of conspiracy theories out there. I'm not interested in theories. I'm interested in facts. So the scholarship over the years that I've utilized are sources that are impeccable. A man by the name of Shabbatai Tzvi, who was born in 1626 and died in 1676, came along and said, I am the Messiah. And he had a tremendous following. When it was realized that his following was so great, there would be problems, the Sultan gave Shabbatai a choice. Either you die or convert to Islam. So he converted. Now, there were about 1 million followers prior to the conversion. When the conversion happened, then there was disillusionment among the Jews. But there were some diehard people who set up different cults of Shabbatai Tzvi. And the worst one of them was called the Domeh, which was a secret organization. And the Domeh was based in Turkey and in Salonika. And the Domeh gave rise to these terrible orgies that went on, which became part of the immorality theology of Shabbatai Tzvi, corrupted later on. He apostatized himself 10 years before his death. So when he died in 1676, he had these cults doing all kinds of evil.
And the reason that these followers of Shabbatai Tzvi were doing evil was because what?
Here's the thing. The Talmud says that the Messiah would come when everybody's good or everybody's bad. There is such a saying in the Talmud. So the Sabbateans said like this: it's impossible for everybody to be good. It's easy to be bad. So they turned around the Torah and they said, if you do an evil deed, then you will use up the energy of the universe, and it'll collapse, and you'll force the Messiah to come because you will have used up all the evil in the world. So whenever they engage in an orgy, they would make a bracha, and every day they would figure out a way to do as many sins as possible. Like if you eat chaylev, you're chayav karet. In other words, if you eat fat, according to the Torah, you're to be excommunicated from your people. So they would eat fat that was prohibited, non-kosher fat, from a kosher animal, which is chaylev, which is in that category, like eating blood from a kosher animal.
So they would dafka do the opposite.
They do the opposite
in order to hasten the
coming of the Messiah. After Shabbatai Tzvi died, one of the most powerful Sabbatian cults, as they were called, was a transformation of the Domeh, the most extreme cult, to Europe through an insidious person by the name of Jacob Frank. He died in 1791. Now the Frankists started to spread and take over entire communities and make them satanic. And you can actually trace a line historically, which I do in my book, to the CFR from Shabbatai Tzvi, and another organization called the Illuminati, which was founded in 1776 by Adam Weishaupt. And they were involved also in the French Revolution, which is also well documented.
So what you're saying is that there really does exist a New World Order, that it's not a conspiracy theory, it's a conspiracy.
Right, and Professor Katz wrote a book called The Jews and Freemasonry, which gives a history of the interface between Jews and some of the cults that derived out of Shabtai Tzvi. But the next big cult that came from Shabtai Tzvi after the Domeh organization, which was in Turkey, the next big cult were the Frankists, as I mentioned with Jacob Frank. So Jacob Frank, the Vad Arba Ratzot, the Council of Four Lands, wanted to deal with Frank, and they decided to have a big excommunication on the 20th of Sivan 250 years ago. And there, they made the following rulings. They said everybody that is a Frankist is to be excommunicated.
From the Jewish people.
From the Jewish people, bastards to the 10th generation, is what it said. And they prohibited people, because the Frankists were into Kabbalah, they prohibited the study of Kabbalah until you were 30 or 40 years old and you had a belly full, as they said, full of Talmud. Only then could you study the Kabbalah.
What do you think about that?
Epstein was a CIA Mossad asset that was recruited and was doing a blackmail operation. They haven't released the entire list of close Epstein confidants, but Israel's former prime minister was one of them.
Barak?
Yes, they got a picture of him visiting Epstein at his New York apartment. And he was well connected to Epstein, but that was all in secret. And that is the intelligence part of Mossad. And of course, they couldn't do that without coordinating with the CIA.
I ask this question now. The more I learn, there just always seems to be this connection between the CIA and the Mossad. The more you look back into history, and it's always somehow the CIA and the Mossad is there. On the day that JFK gets shot, we learn about MLK, we learn about 9/11, and everyone's going, okay, why does it seem like there's a union here?
Mossad is like the sister of the CIA. They're joined at the hip, kind of like Siamese twins. They use each other for intel and operations and things like that. They are extremely close.
And they said their women are whores. And they are hereby excommunicated from our people to the 10th generation.
This is what the Council of Four Lands labeled the Frankists, because they so deviated from Judaism and all that Judaism holds to be true and righteous. These people went off and made basically their own deformed religion, and so the Jews wanted nothing to do with them. They kicked them out.
That is correct.
Okay. Are there non-Jews that joined this Sabbatian cult?
No, non-Jews did not join the Sabbatian cult, but the non-Jews did join the Illuminati.
Police sources tell me this isn't the first time a sex party has taken place behind me, a claim that Freemasons I spoke to today deny. They say they do not stand for this. It's a secretive organization sitting right next door to the Battle Creek Police Department and the county courthouse. Police sources described to us an out-of-control sex party scene. Police sources told us the first officer to walk inside was shocked to find a couple performing a lewd sex act right in front of him.
Today, we are proud to announce that we are the first municipality in Canada to implement the cutting-edge 360-degree cameras and license plate recognition technology at traffic intersections, integrated with state-of-the-art software. This really is going to be a game changer for public safety. This technology, approved by City Council in 2024, will allow us not only to get the license plate, but visual identifications of individuals. Not only to get the license plate, but visual identifications of individuals.
Welcome to the New World Order. New World Order.
Hi everyone. Today I wanted to talk about the recent developments which have come out in the last 24 hours regarding the caravan full of explosives that were found in the outer suburbs of Sydney in January earlier this year. As predicted by many people on Twitter and Telegram, including myself, the whole thing was fake. Now, I want to talk about the underlying agenda behind this, who benefits from it, where we go from here, and the implications of anti-Semitism being used as a political weapon against the Australian public.